There were 15 working royals on the Queen's 90th birthday, which was 6 years ago. Those are family members who go to events on behalf of the sovereign. Charles has said before that he wants to cut it down to just 8 senior members for budgetary and logistical reasons. Camilla is now Queen Consort, hence she is one of the 8 people who are automatically in. A royal decree just came out with the signatures of King Charles and Princess Anne on it, and it has shocked everyone in Britain. It is steeped in tradition, but it has a hint of defiance. The document was designed to confirm, but it left out Queen Camilla's name on purpose. There is a lot of noise in the palace hallways. Aides are caught off guard, and murmurs are becoming louder than official declarations. Was this a planned maneuver or a quiet attack from inside the company? One thing is evident, this wasn't an accident. Put on your seatbelt. This regal twist is only beginning. Inside the royal shakeup that put Queen Camilla in the background. Like many royal things, it started quietly and formally behind the gilded doors of the palace. A royal edict, signed by King Charles and Princess Anne, came from the heart of the monarchy. It looked like just another ceremonial rearrangement on the outside. But within, it seemed like it was carrying the weight of a crown that was changing. The parchment only had 4 names on it. King Charles, Princess Anne, Prince William, and Princess Catherine are all here. Prince Andrew, Prince Harry, and Queen Camilla were all missing. What looked like a mistake at the office was actually planned. People who worked in the palace confirmed it right away. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice based on strategy, silence, and meaning. For hundreds of years, these kinds of decrees have recognized queen consorts, not just because it's the right thing to do, but also to show that the practice is still going strong and is important. Not including Camilla's name wasn't simply a big deal. It was huge. This subtle exclusion didn't happen all at once. It had been building up behind the scenes, a steady loss of presence and strength. Camilla graced the coronation stage with Charles in public just last year. Since then, her function has become less important, less central, and more cosmetic. With one written edict, her formal importance has all but disappeared. There is a deeper tale behind the scroll's beautiful writing that can't be communicated in ink. Charles and Anne's united signature wasn't just a matter of procedure, it meant something. Anne's star is rising not because of show, but because of her strong, unwavering purpose. Camilla's influence may be receding. Princess Anne, who was born on August 15th, never wanted to be in the spotlight. She wasn't trained to be glamorous. She was made via duty. From a young age, she was disciplined, smart, and had a strong sense of duty. These traits made her more respected than loved, and more important than seen. While tabloids were obsessed with Charles, Camilla, and the younger royals, Anne quietly became the monarchy's backbone. Her list of duties grew over the years, but there were no news releases or public fanfare. Anne's itinerary became the busiest of any royal, with everything from state visits to military duty. She never used charm in her approach. It was a matter of commitment. Anne became the connection between the monarchy's old ways and its new ways. Charles went to Anne when he needed help making tough decisions, not comfort. Her loyalty wasn't loud, but it never wavered. Anne was the one who helped shape the way forward when it was time to change the royal structure in response to increased public scrutiny and a quickly changing worldwide perception of monarchy. The order wasn't merely a way to cut down on royal waste. It was a change in the way power worked. Fewer names, clearer duties, and clearer messages. Charm was replaced by credibility. They traded ceremonial significance for operational strength. Charles used to consider Camilla as a source of personal stability, but she looked to be getting more and more out of sync with the crown's new vision for the future. People who worked at the palace thought that her efforts to fill the ceremonial shoes of Queen Elizabeth II were sincere, but they didn't think they were enough to live up to the austere and scandal-free reputation she left behind. Camilla gave warmth while Anne gave strategy. In a monarchy that was under pressure to modernize, warmth was no longer a luxury it could afford, and the gap increased. People say that Anne, who was generally quiet in public, was quite worried behind the scenes. She gave Charles a warning. Putting Camilla in the spotlight too much could make loyal personnel feel like they don't belong, and make the public lose faith. Queen Consort was a title that the late Queen Elizabeth carefully chose. It was never supposed to be unclear. It wasn't just a formality for Anne. She was determined to keep it a barrier. The fact that Camilla's name isn't in the current decree is more than just paperwork. It is the calm end of one chapter and the soft start of another. This isn't a spectacular speech. It's a strong statement of purpose and strategy. It shows that the monarchy is getting ready to be relevant again by relying on its most reliable force, Princess Anne. In the end, it's not only about taking away a title or leaving a name off the parchment. It's about a small change of power inside the royal walls that doesn't make the news but yet changes history. Camilla's exclusion says a lot. Not via confrontation, but by gentle redirection. And Anne, her presence is now bigger than ever, not just next to the crown, but also behind all it does. But this was just the start. What happened next, behind the scenes, between family members, and in the public light, would test the monarchy in ways that no scroll or seal could ever hold. The person who plans things for the king. And just like that, Camilla's name was erased from a royal order that was supposed to set the future of the monarchy. The omission wasn't a mistake, it was planned. Her title was left off a document that now holds the weight of a kingdom in transition on purpose and with care. The signal wasn't loud, but it was really loud. There were just 4 names: Catherine, Anne, William, and Charles. Insiders suggest that these are the pillars that the crown now depends on. And even though the ink dried without any public discussion, behind the palace doors, it was Anne, strong, calm, and unyielding, who wrote the final text with an iron pen. Camilla had felt the tide change long before her name went away. Months before, she had stepped into the spotlight with new enthusiasm, doing things that had once seemed unattainable. More engagements, more donations, and a modern face next to the king. A lot of people thought she was now being properly accepted into the family, not as a consort in waiting, but as a partner in rule. But as she got more famous, the walls around her got quieter. Whispers became resistance. Her sophisticated style and knowledge of the media upset the traditions that were still grieving the death of Queen Elizabeth II. Then Anne came along. Camilla embraced change, but Anne was strong and never gave up. She didn't care about headlines or charm offensives. She was in charge of protocol. Her compass was loyalty to the crown, not to people. Within that belief there was tension. There were small standoffs, problems with scheduling, arguments over past decisions, and different ideas about how to dress for ceremonies. The courtiers stopped acting like everything was fine. The rift was deep, even though it was usually courteous. A new title began to stick to Anne, the mastermind behind the throne, behind the scenes. Not in an official way, of course. She would never say that name, but palace staff knew it was true. Anne's voice made choices, and her presence guided the way. She was no longer just a figurehead. She was the quiet architect of the monarchy, keeping the crown stable at its most uncertain time. But that rise came with a price. Camilla stepped back every inch Anne pushed forward. Whether she wanted to or not, she wasn't suddenly left out. It was planned. She stopped going to important planning sessions. Her workplace was on the edge of things. People made decisions before they got to her. Her persistent presence next to the king came to look more like a symbol than a strategy. The same halls that had previously resonated with her voice were now silent. And King Charles, the man who stood by her through years of public derision and personal problems, was now at a crossroads that only the crown could make. There was no doubt that he loved her sincerely, but as the king, he had to make a choice that didn't leave much room for feelings. Charles had to make the hardest decision of his reign as Britain's hopes grew and internal tensions rose. To put legacy ahead of loyalty. There was no news release about the change. There were no cameras there, yet the message got through anyhow. In what wasn't stated, in the titles that weren't given, and in the stillness that followed. And even though Camilla still grins in public, people who know her believe she understands. But is the crown she used to stand next to going on now? Without looking back, quietly, and with a plan. Keep looking. Camilla's quiet collapse, and the emergence of royal judgment. Power frequently moves in silence, even when the crown is beautiful, and the waves from royal balconies are meticulously planned. Behind closed doors, in pen on parchment, and in choices made not out of love, but out of a desire to leave a legacy. There was no difference with Queen Camilla's unexpected removal from the monarchy's destiny. The public saw a pen stroke, but underneath there was a maelstrom of old grudges, royal plans, and one scandal that was too big to ignore. Camilla had worked hard for years to be accepted by the people. She climbed above the controversy. First the stranger, and then the princess who was going to marry him, until she was crowned queen consort in 2022. The Queen of England has given her a blessing. For Prince Charles' wife Camilla to be dubbed queen consort, her change was anything but easy. It was full of resistance, public anger, and continual reminders of a history that wouldn't let go. But in the end, she had earned Charles's loyalty, and a title that many people felt she could never get. But titles in the royal sphere are just as flimsy as the trust they are based on. Many people didn't know that becoming queen consort had cost her something, one enmeshed in another royal scandal. The kind that didn't simply leave marks on names, but on legacies as well. Christopher Anderson, a specialist on royalty, says that the tipping point was when Prince Andrew's role in the Jeffrey Epstein case became public. Queen Elizabeth II was so desperate to stop the damage that she surreptitiously paid a private settlement with her own money. If it hadn't been touched, this money would have finally gone to Charles. Charles was mad not only about the scandal and the money, but also about the idea behind it.
At that point, the fight between mother and son turned into a negotiation. If Andrew could use his inheritance to fix Andrew's problems, then he could also ask for something. Camilla would not be princess consort anymore. She would be the queen. Queen Elizabeth agreed. It was a deal that went off without a hitch. One scandal twisted around another. A mother seeking to protect the royal family. A son trying to get the woman he loves. But the crown is alive. Its needs are different. When Queen Elizabeth died, the old deal suddenly seemed out of date. The sentiment of the public had changed again. Parliament was pushing for change. The journalists asked tough questions. And the internet. It turned into a war zone. Was Camilla really the face the royal family needed just now? Princess Anne had already made up her mind inside the palace. She was practical and didn't care about feelings. She wanted a clean monarchy, simple, effective, and free of memories of prior problems. She thought that Camilla's presence made that picture more difficult. Not because of who she was, but because of what she stood for. Charles had a hard time for days. He read over and over the versions of the royal edict that named the main royals who would represent the throne. Camilla's name was in a gray region, never taken away, never confirmed. The staff said he was often moving around, torn between love and duty. Anne didn't flinch though. She is supposed to have declared that the monarchy should be respected, not remembered for what it did wrong. The choice was finally decided. There was no announcement or statement, only one signature. It quietly took Camilla's name off the document that will shape the future of the throne. Her title stayed the same, but she wasn't there anymore. There was a lot of confusion after the leak got out. No more queen. The headlines cried. Camilla was the center of a storm she didn't see coming. One group said the move was right for Diana, for tradition, and for justice. Someone other said it was mean. A woman who had paid every price to be at the table was betrayed and then quietly let go. Polls showed that the country was split, but one thing was clear. Power doesn't always make noise, whispers sometimes, and with one whisper a queen was gone. A royal quiet that may be heard all throughout the planet. And when the ink dry on the order that quietly put Camilla aside, the reaction was everything but quiet. The decision sent off a global surge of speculation, not merely about the role of a queen consort, but also about the future of the royal family itself, from the boulevards of Paris to the newsrooms of New York. What did that quiet truly mean? If Charles, who had previously gone against tradition to be with Camilla, couldn't protect her now, was this a planned effort to protect the crown's reputation, or was it the first sign of a relationship that was starting to break under pressure? International experts looked at every angle and wondered if Camilla would now go into hiding or stand her ground. There were typical tendencies in the tabloids. People put Camilla's name next to the names of other royal women who had formerly been close to power but then lost it. Meghan Markle, Sarah Ferguson, and Princess Diana. Once each one stood for optimism or scandal. Now they are remembered for how quickly they were forgotten. Was Camilla next? Her exit from that company no longer appeared like a simple change. It felt like being sent away. But beyond all the headlines and talk show banter, a deeper fear was spreading. If a queen consort could be eliminated so casually, even though both the late Queen Elizabeth and the crown had made her legitimate, then no title looked safe. The monarchy showed how far it would go to stay in power by showing how vicious it was. This was more than just one name missing from a page. It was a sign. The palace had shown its hand, which made people think that much more trouble might be on the way. People were watching and waiting not only for Camilla's next move, but also for what would happen next behind the palace's golden doors. But what covert changes are happening behind the palace doors, as the four main players secretly change the rules of royal power? Stay tuned. The core four and the crown's quiet revolution. But the real message wasn't muttered. It was written in royal ink. The palace secretly revealed its new plan by removing Camilla's name from the decree. King Charles, Princess Anne, Prince William and Princess Catherine will be in charge of the future. The crown has moved its center of gravity. It is no longer a huge network of distant cousins and extended tasks. This is not the same monarchy as it used to be. It is a machine that has been recalibrated to focus on strategy, optics and survival. This newly formed Core 4 is carefully redrawing lines that have been there for hundreds of years behind the royal walls. Charles's long-held dream of a streamlined monarchy, which was formerly thought to be too radical for tradition, has now come true. This elite group is bringing together all the important events, from visits from other countries to national ceremonies. It's not a punishment, it's safety. In a time when symbols are closely watched and every royal wave may make 1,000 headlines, cutting back on the royal family isn't about leaving people out, it's about keeping things safe. Camilla is slowly stepping back from jobs that used to be very important to her, but her duties are still being done. Kate is already well liked by the public, so she is easily moving into those roles. Anne, who is always working hard, is still the monarchy's executive backbone. This inner circle isn't just for show, it works, and with it comes a frigid efficiency that doesn't have place for old feelings. Titles given out during more forgiving times are being looked once again, especially honors that are still connected to Camilla. What she worked so hard for is now silently fading away in the name of evolution. There is already talk of making changes to the Constitution, and if they are passed, they might make this change permanent. The monarchy is no longer just reacting, for better or worse. It is adjusting to stay the same. Queen Camilla was shoved to the side, and just like that, a lady who used to be at the core of royal change now watches from the shadows as her name slowly vanishes from the institution she helped establish. Queen Camilla's job is no longer set in stone as the monarchy moves forward with a fresh, streamlined model. It's being chiseled away with calm precision, not via scandal or outrage, but through meticulous planning. Titles, which used to mean honor, have been given new meanings. Princess Catherine is now in charge of ceremonial tasks. Her power is growing, and so is the love she gets from the public. King Charles and Princess Anne have long wanted this change to happen, and now it is happening. The monarchy is changing within the palace walls. It is becoming leaner, sharper, and better able to handle the demands of a skeptical day. The fact that Camilla wasn't included in the most recent royal order was a clear sign. Now survival is more important than feelings. The big web of distant cousins and ceremonial handshakes is no longer there. What is left is a small group of people, Charles, Anne, William, and Catherine, whose job it is to lead the crown into a new period. It's not only a matter of logistics that Camilla isn't there, it's also personal. But even in silence, she hasn't given up. Inside Clarence's house, private meetings have taken the role of public appearances. Her calendar, which used to be full of garden parties and state banquets, is now empty. The story is that people are tired. Insiders say something far more planned is going on behind the scenes. They say that Camilla is carefully considering what to do next. People are talking about picking journalists carefully and having her tale come out in a calm way, not in fury, a steady drip instead of a yell. If this happens, it will be a direct attack on the very core that threw her out. But the stress isn't only coming from outside. The link between her and Charles, which used to be unbreakable, has been challenged behind the scenes. The man who previously risked public censure to protect her is now torn. He was loyal to his wife, but the institution was changing right under his feet. Anne's growing power, and William's silent support for a simpler future, have only made things more stressful. And then there's the frost between William and Catherine. What it is, and how we may help, not just ourselves but each other as well. Those connections, which were formerly friendly, and even warm, have cooled as Kate takes on important public obligations with grace and praise. Camilla's absence means more than just a signal, it's built in. Every time the Princess of Wales smiles, it makes Camilla less and less like her. In the middle, however, not everyone thinks Camilla is backing down. Some people in her orbit say she's just waiting and playing the long game. They witness a woman who has been through worse and come back stronger. Her choice to quietly take back her voice or step aside in quiet disobedience could have an effect on more than just her own destiny. It could change the balance of power in the monarchy. When power changes hands quietly, the loudest move might be the one that no one sees coming. But what if Camilla's quiet isn't a retreat, but a plan? Could her peaceful homecoming change the future of the monarchy? Stay tuned to discover out. A queen with no throne, Camilla's calm realization. But as the royal family changed their crown, one name disappeared from the scrolls, not with a bang but with silence. That stillness said everything. It wasn't a mistake that Queen Camilla wasn't mentioned in the royal edict. It was on purpose. Her name has been surreptitiously taken off the list of royal duties with King Charles, which means that authority has changed hands. Camilla used to be a controversial but tough figure, but now she is being pushed to the side more and more. Insiders believe she's stepping back from the spotlight, even if she hasn't quit. Her schedule is almost empty, and Clarence's house is quieter, and when her name used to mean anything at royal ceremonies, silence now says a lot. People who know say that the change is part of a bigger plan to make the monarchy's public face smaller on purpose. Since Charles, Princess Anne, William, and Catherine are now wearing the crown, I've been trying to keep quiet about reaching 3/4 of a century. Their spotlight is brighter when Camilla isn't there, and for the firm that's a visual win, a clear picture of strength, solidarity, and new beginnings. After the controversy, people don't trust the monarchy as much, thus it requires its most honest people to be in front of the public. But this change in power comes at a cost to individuals. People say that Camilla's silent departure has taken a heavy toll on the palace's emotions. Charles used to be willing to risk everything for her, but now he had to pull back because of duty. People who know them say that things are getting more tense and distant between them, even if they seem to be getting along in public. This is especially true as Anne's power grows and William's eyesight sharpens. Camilla's relationships with William and Catherine, which used to be friendly and even warm, have become colder. Catherine easily takes on tasks that were once reserved for Camilla, which is a future that the public is more likely to accept. People think Prince William, who is always devoted on defending the institution, is in favor of the reshuffling that put Camilla on the outside. It's not personal, it's a strategy. But for Camilla, it's really personal, and still she stays. Not in the spotlight, but not completely hidden either. People say she's thinking about what to do next. It's not a big declaration or a sad goodbye, but maybe a quiet planned retreat that she frames as self-care or scaling back to fit her age. Some people think she's just waiting and watching, picking the right time to come back on her own terms, not to disappear. Camilla has never been the sort to stay silent. She didn't get to the throne by inheritance. It was fought for, inch by inch, through controversy, exile, and finally acceptance. And that makes it much more obvious that she is not here now. The monarchy may be changing, but Camilla's legacy is still up in the air. As the ink dries on the papers that left her name behind, one thing is evident. This isn't only the story of a queen who steps back. It's the story of a crown being changed, loyalty being put to the test, and a lady who may still change her position in history before the royal curtain falls for good. But what do you believe truly happened within the castle that led Queen Camilla stop doing her royal duties without saying anything? Was it a plan, betrayal, or something else? We want to know what you think. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.